I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the Laverne Planning Commission August 31st, 2021 meeting at 6 p.m. We do have a quorum. Our first item of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the July 27th, 2021 regular meeting.
Motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion from Mr. Holliday. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. First item of business, recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, rezoning of property requested by Womble and Associates, 28 residential lots on 8 acres, including 4 acres for City of Laverne Fire Department Training Facility. Property located at Bill Stewart Boulevard, tax map 14F, Group A, parcel 1.01, and tax map 14, parcels 36, 36.01, and 36.02. Current zoning district, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District. Proposed zoning district, PDR R2 Planned Density Residential Zoning District. Property owned by Adnan Shreedman. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. I think Jerry's out tonight, so we may have to take a pause. I'm not sure if the PowerPoint is loaded or not.
Okay. Can we take a slight pause while we get through the technical difficulties here? Thank you, sir. Okay.
17th. So this is the one from the workshop,
I should have.
which, so it's not current. A little bit has been changed. We always have to change that
Your
before.
phone number.
That's all we have.
So I loaded a lot of slides for the daycare.
This isn't connected to the drive.
Oh, really? Yes. How come?
Buying a house in there?
Very nice.
Let's see, it's under here.
That's like scary.
Let me write down, it's
Says something.
Well, I guess.
it
Wow.
is,
So-
yes. So it'll be a minute.
So we can go ahead.
Yeah, definitely don't let me take a picture of it.
We can go ahead and do old business.
Very good. It looks like we're back up and running. No? Partially?
We have the workshop, but they're gonna go get the, updates.
To get there, I guess that's,
Should be able to go through old business, so.
Okay.
yeah. Should be the only one that says August 2021.
So we are going to proceed, Mr. Logan.
We will proceed with this,
This item?
I don't think the old business, because if you remember from the workshop, the reports didn't have many comments, so, but you're looking at the workshop at least temporarily until somebody can get the new one down here,
Very good.
or find it on the public drive.
Logan?
So I'll let you know if anything's changed, item by item.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Need to put display. Slideshow. Yeah, current slide.
Mr. Jerry is proving his worth.
There you go. The space for it.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started and cover what we can. Okay, so this is item 1, and this is a request from Womble Associates to rezone property on Bill Stewart Boulevard. And they are proposing 28 residential lots and 1 lot that would be deeded to the city for use by the city as they see fit. So this is an overview of the community, the particular community in Laverne off Bill Stewart where they're proposing this development. So this is the acreage that surrounds the fire hall. And then zooming in for a closer look, you can see the fire hall. So we'll show the plan in just a minute, but the residential lots are north of the fire hall, and then the 4 acres, more or less, to be deeded to the city lies behind the fire hall, which would be to the east. And this is the zoning map. So orange is R1, and that's currently what this property is zoned. And you probably remember there's a tract behind it that's zoned agricultural, which is the green and brown kind of dotted piece of land. There's R2 zoning to the north, which is the dark red color. So R2, R1, and then the agricultural tract behind. Of course, there's a large R4 zoned community across the road as well. So this is the PDR booklet, and I know a couple times in the past we've talked about that there's now one ingress egress, which is going to be called McCormick Place, and the former street to the north, which was called Hook and Ladder, has been removed.
It's been changed.
So this is another view. That's the old plan that shows the 2 streets. So they're down to the 1 street.
No, they added one off the back there.
Let's see if it's in the book. So this was the PDR booklet that was submitted that shows the building elevations and a typical design of each home from the street. And this is a map and diagram provided by the developer as well. And now in this photo, north will be to the left, so instead of the normal north being up. So north is to the left, this is the site outlined in white, and then the existing fire hall, which is adjacent. And here's some typical elevations, again, that were submitted with the PDR booklet. Everything in this development is proposed to be single family. And so this is one of the diagrams that was submitted for the fire safety, and shows the exact turn-in radius and the dimensions needed for the city's current fire truck and fire apparatus. So a closer look at that. And then some photos of the site. You can see some of the storage trailers that the fire department uses for their work. And this is looking north, so this is Bill Stewart to the left. And you can see just a treed area that surrounds the site. And there were no technical comments 2 weeks ago at the workshop. There was mention of the glide path for the Smyrna Airport. That's not a technical item, but anyway, that completes the report. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Leach, please, sir.
just as a note, what's in the presentation does not match what's in the book, because this is last week or 2 weeks ago. So there was the addition of another connection onto, I want to say it's McAllen or Mifflin Lane that goes through the backside of the property. In addition, due to some fire department concerns, those interior lanes were opened up to 30 feet. So everything is pretty well squared away from a rather preliminary engineering standpoint. But I did want to make sure that y'all didn't confuse what you saw up here with what is actually in your packet.
Yes, sir. So it more matches the sample that the developer gave us.
Say again?
It more matches the sample that the developer gave us last at workshop.
So you have a whole new book there. So this is from the old book. So that's why they don't match, but the new book is what you'd be voting one way or another on. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew there are 2 access points included in your new book and the wider turn lanes.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Do we have the applicant step forward, please, Mr. Chairman?
Is there an applicant for this project? If you would, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, sir.
Mr. Womble, a couple of questions. So from the workshop, there were 3 red technical items. Have they been addressed?
All the items have been addressed.
Would you concur that, Mr. Leach? We're okay?
The red technical items are typically from the fire marshal, but
Right.
they were removed, so I assume they have been addressed.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
I'm pretty sure she's waiting.
You're waiting on a response.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Turning on, Ms. Womble, regarding the glide angle, I did get some history and background on that, and as we discussed, just want to ensure that there is a communications tower there presently, and that the buildings that are planned to be built, if this gets rezoned, that they will be below the height of that antenna.
Yes, they will be.
With that, then it meets the requirement of the envelope for the Smyrna Airport, just so people know. Again, we are dealing with zoning, but just looking at your proposal here, do you plan to have sidewalks in this area?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And could you just explain a little bit about the land that has been given to the city, if you would? Just describe that a little bit of what your thoughts and ideas were behind that.
Yes, the purpose of that, first of all, it came to us from some of the city's employees, and we've met with the fire chief and with the fire marshal and discussed it further with them, but there was some interest in having a site to develop a additional training facility. So I think most of the members on this board know that that fire station is named after Amnon's son, Near. And Amnon was involved in donating the land for that fire station. He also did the paving for the parking lot for that fire station. So he was interested in doing something to help out. So that's what started the proposal. So what the proposal was on this little over 8 acres, allow us to construct the number of units that the R2 zoning would allow on the 8 acres on about half of the land, about 4 acres. And then Amnon would donate the other 4 acres to the city. That donation, according to Amnon, he estimates it would be around a value of about $400,000. He's paying around $100,000 per acre now for land that he purchases for development. So as we discussed in the workshop, he was asked the question, well, what if the fire department decides on a more central location for a training facility and chooses not to use this property for the training facility, then could the city still have it, and could the city use it for other purposes? And he said yes. And then the question was asked, well, if you do that, then don't you have to designate in the PDR what the use is going to be of the 4 acres? And I talked to Mr. Cope about that briefly after the workshop meeting, and I think the advice I was given was that, yes, it does need to, at least at a minimum, on a regulatory basis, identify the uses that the PDR would be approving for the 4 acres. So we altered the note number 1 on the plan to state that in the event the city chooses not to use it for a fire department training facility, then it can be used by the city for any uses allowed in the C1 governmental and public service district in section 5.053.1 of the Laverne zoning regulations. So that then gives the city the regulatory right to use it for any use the city chooses that's allowed in C1 zoning in the zoning regs.
Thank you, Mr. Womble.
Thank you.
One other quick question for Bo, if you would, Bo. Are we ensuring that it is a PDR that they've adhered to all the PDR requirements for our present regulations?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
He actually addressed my question in his response, so we're good.
And ask better than that, Mr. Rutledge, Mr. Coleman? That will entertain a motion.
That's what I would do, is just close it.
I'll make a motion to give a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
I'll second.
We have a motion to make a favorable recommendation to the mayor and alderman by Mayor Cole, second by Alderman Coates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Logan, do you need a second, sir?
I think we're very close here.
Okay. And I have deferred written on my paperwork for item number 2, sir. Is that
That's correct. Pinnacle Point is deferred, and they have submitted, and they'll be here next month at the workshop.
Thank you very much. With that, we will go on to item number 3. Preliminary plat Carruthers Crossing Phase 3, 121 lots on 45.2 acres, requested by SEC, property located on Carruthers Road, tax map 29, parcel 29, PDR Planned Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Burkett Hills Investment Group, LLC. Mr. Logan, please.
Thanks. This is a preliminary plat request at Carruthers Crossing, Phase 3, and they're proposing 121 lots on 45.2 acres with this plat. See the site here, it does touch Davidson County, and it's accessed off Carruthers Road. And these homes here that you see are located in Davidson County, so they're not part of Laverne. But you can see there's been a lot of development on the site over the past several months, and we'll see some pictures in just a moment. They have some houses that are going vertical. So just a lot of dirt moving. I do have a lot of the streets in, at least the binder on a lot of the streets. This is the zoning map. So the hatched area is the PDR, which stands for Planned Density Residential. And the PDR, the total site is about 368 single-family homes. So this is 121 lots of those 368. So looking at the plans, it's a really large project with 121 lots. So these are sections, and then there's a match line, as y'all have seen before, when you can match up each page to show the total development. So this is the first slide starting up at Carruthers Road, and then it's basically just the one ingress egress off Carruthers, and you come basically south off Carruthers into the first phases. So this is zooming in at each phase. You can see the lots, how they're arranged, as well as some of the stormwater features. And again, all this development is proposed to be single-family. There is some small commercial area at the entrance, and I think the entrance is planned to be 2-story two-story buildings with the opportunity for commercial on the bottom floor. So here's some site photos. These are older photos from June, and then some from about 2 weeks ago. So you can see a lot of the dirt. There's a massive amount of dirt that's been moved for this project. This is actually taken from the ridge off of Lake Road. And then these pictures are newer from about 2 weeks ago that show some of the houses that are coming out of the ground. And there's another photo there. This is the main road. You're actually looking toward Carruthers Road in the distance where I'm pointing with the red. So 2 weeks ago, there's not been any technical comments on this project, and so the report didn't contain any 2 weeks ago. So essentially, you're looking at the same plan in your packets that they had 2 weeks ago. And that completes the report. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there a representative for this project here? Name and address if you don't mind, sir.
Matt Taylor from SEC, 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
One question, all these lots are buildable, there's no requirement for any variances or any special exceptions, they're all buildable lots? Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments?
This was deferred, I'm sorry.
Please.
This was deferred last month due to some, I guess, regulation or technical items that were on the plat from the fire department. Is that all of that been taken care of? Thank you.
Mr. Holliday, please.
I know that this is preliminary plat, and if somebody tells me that we can address that in that next phase of approvals, but I'm recognizing that the alley rear setback is 22 feet, and I certainly acknowledge that that's in line with our expectations of having enough driveway to have off-street parking. The non-alley, the rear is 30 feet, but the front is only 10. And with that goal of off-street parking, I'm concerned that that garage door could be 10 feet from the street. And would we accomplish what we would like to have there with enough driveway space to put a vehicle? I don't want to derail this. If somebody tells me we can address that in the future, I'm happy as a lark.
Well, we can't, because that was part of the PDR's original approving, so their zoning is different. So in their PDR book, their setbacks were set to coincide with that.
Okay. All right.
Satisfactory?
Yep.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? That will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Next item. Item number 4, final plat Ponderosa Estates, Section 2, 41 lots on 19.57 acres. Requested by Huddleston Steel, property located on Martin Lane, tax map 6, PO Parcel 28, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District. Property owned by David V. Waldron, Charles K. Waldron, and Gregory E. Waldron. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is a request for final plat approval at Ponderosa Estates, Section 2, which is comprised of 41 lots on 19.57 acres. And you can see on the screen there the exact parcels that are the subject of this request. So this property is located off of Martin Lane, and I guess the best way to say it, it's in the northeastern part of Laverne if you're looking at the map of the city. So you basically turn on Fergus and go toward the north and do the four-way stop and then take a right. And go in that area. So we'll see in just a minute on the zoning map a bigger picture. But this is zoomed in on the current acreage, so it's heavily forested with a lot of trees. and some residential development that's also zoned R1, the same as this project. So the neighboring properties there, you can see how they're laid out. Some of those homes have been there for quite a while. So here's the sea of orange map. Everything there that's orange is R1. So there's quite a bit. Some of this to the north is actually water, a little bit of it, so it's a little misleading. But primarily this part of Laverne is all R1. So this project is also in keeping with that. So they are proposing 41 lots, and the planning items were taken care of several weeks back. Here's a picture of the plat. Shows Ponderosa Estates and the general lot arrangement. So yeah, a lot of the technical items from planning were addressed weeks ago, but because of water issues, this project had to defer. And so they've been working with engineering to get the water, to get some type of solution to the water issues. This is a picture, again, of the woods, and this is the property that's in play, and this is Drake Road, and so you can see just a lot of forested area, and there's another shot coming in from the other direction, shows the property to the left. And again, there was no technical comments at the workshop, and I don't know if Mr. Leach would like to address the solution to the water, but I'll turn that over to him. Thanks.
Can you give us a brief summary on that, Mr. Leach?
Yes, so to basically meet the requirements of Appendix B of the fire code, they were required to run a 8-inch loop up to, let's see, it'd be up Hollandale Road essentially, and tie into some of our existing. So we'll have a bit better, water pressure won't actually change, but water supply would go up. They've basically committed to doing that with this plat, so it shows the off-site improvements. They'll send me some corrected construction drawings to basically verify that, but they've, thanks to our utility engineer, that seems to be an acceptable,
Very good.
solution.
Satisfied with it, sir? Are you satisfied with it?
I am.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the board? Would you like the applicant?
Yeah, just one question.
The applicant is here. Would you come to the podium, please? State your name and address for the record.
Chris McGuire, Hudson Steel, 2115 Northwest Broad Street, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
I just want to, same question, I ask everybody, these all buildable lots, there's no variances required, these are all buildable lots, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion if no other comments.
I make motion approved as submitted.
We have a motion to approve by Alderman Coast. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Holliday. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. On to item number 5. Subdivision acceptance, Cottages of Lake Forest, Phase 7, property located off Holland Ridge Drive, requested by Womble and Associates, R3 High Density Residential Zoning District. Mr. Logan.
This is a request for subdivision acceptance for the cottages of Lake Forest, Phase 7, and this property is located off Holland Ridge Drive. And this is being requested by Womble and Associates. You can see this blue outline on the screen is the area that we're talking about with this item. And this was here at I guess it was here last month, and was a deferral as some of the checklists were not all complete at that time for subdivision acceptance. So they deferred last month, and they're back again. And the appropriate departments have been working on this item, and I believe Mr. Leach may have an update for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leach, sir.
They're still in the same position they were last month, so I would recommend a deferral.
Very good. Is there a representative for this item here this evening? Do we have a written deferral from the applicant?
We do not. This is just they have not completed their punch list, so I can't take the technical item off. This is not a item where they have to pay anything, so you can defer it, vote to defer it, and then come back next month, or we can, just take them off.
I'll make a motion to defer.
We have a motion to defer by Mayor Cole. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Coates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Our first item of new business, item number 6. Preliminary plat, Arbor Ridge Sections 1 and 2, 114 lots on 39.9 acres, requested by SEC. Property located on Waldron Road, tax map 32, parcel 4, PDR, Planned Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Jim McFarland. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is a request for preliminary plat approval at Arbor Ridge, and this is for sections 1 and 2. And on the screen, you can see, everybody knows by now where this is located, but it's in the south part of Laverne, south of I-24. This is Rock Springs Elementary School on the screen with the white roof. So you can see the blue outline of this very large 216 acres, give or take, on this east side of Waldron Road. And then there is a commercial tract that's 10 or 14 acres to be added to that. So the total development, when it's complete, will be 226 acres, but tonight we're just looking at sections 1 and 2. So there's a close-up there, and again, as you know, a lot of farmland that's kind of been out there in the same state for a long time. The school is at the bottom left, and this is Waldron Road with the S-curve and the three-way stop at the top of the hill. So this is the zoning map, and again, a lot of R1 in the south side of Laverne. And this large sort of military green color is R3. So there is quite a bit of R3 north of Blair Road. And then this is the ridge, which is R2 in the darker red. Everything else is R1. So this is the general layout of Arbor Ridge. So in this image, north is to your left. This is the commercial tract that I mentioned just a minute ago. There's also some commercial on the other corner at Blair and Waldron Road. So we're in the south part. This plat is dealing with the south part of the development. If you're at the three-way stop, and I'll show you some photos in a moment. If you're on Lake and you pull up to the three-way stop and look straight ahead, that's what this is covering tonight. And you can see also, well, I'll zoom in. So these are the improvements there on the S-curve to sort of soften it out. So you can see those on this plat. Again, this is a three-way at Lake, and your school would be here, Rock Springs Elementary to the right of Lake. There's a little bit more showing the improvements to the S-curve. So this is the proposed street and the lot arrangement for this phase. Similar to Carruthers, there's a match line, so if you match up the sheets in your packets, you can see the whole development. And this is another interior road with some lots on both sides. So these are the photographs. So this is at the stop sign at Lake, and you're looking across the road at the wooded area, at least some smaller trees there. And then this drops off a considerable amount, and you can kind of see in the next photo. So to your right would go to Rock Springs Road. That's to the south if you turn right. So you can kind of see these power lines that come across, and they're sort of dropping down. There's a descent over here, so the topo drops down quite a bit. And as you drive this road, I'm sure most of you all know that in addition to the S-curve, you're changing elevation quite a bit also as you're driving the S-curve, so you're going downhill. But this encompasses the area we're talking about tonight with phase 1 and 2, or sections, 1 and 2. And they did not have any technical comments 2 weeks ago, and so you're essentially looking at the same submittal from 2 weeks ago, since there were no technical comments. So that completes the report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would a representative come to the podium for just a second? Name and address again, Mr. Matt?
Matt Taylor, SEC 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Questions or comments from the board? Mayor Cole?
Mr. Chair, I've got a couple questions. Mr. Logan, is this for phase 1, which is section 6, or is this for section 1 and 2 in the middle? I thought when we were at workshop, we were discussing a change to where it is section 1 and 2, not the portion you were showing us at Lake Road.
My understanding, it's still called sections 1 and 2.
Not according to this updated version.
No,
According to our-
section 1 and 2 are the interior sections.
Yeah, the hard copies I'm seeing y'all look at is the correct set. It looked like the PDFs had not been updated.
Okay,
And
so-
it is on the interior middle portion of the property.
Okay, so it's section 1 and 2 on the sheets that we have in front of us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the center section.
Yes,
It's gonna
sir.
be to Mr. Logan, if you would go back to the slide, please, so everybody can, okay. So the section that looks right dead center, correct? Mr.
Not that area, no, sir.
That one.
Right there.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Very good.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Kind of the horseshoe portion of the property.
Okay.
And it's section 1, 2, and 3 is what we've got it termed.
So it's still called sections 1 and 2. They've just added 3. I guess the delineation is different, but I remember from 2 weeks ago that the phasing plan in the PDR booklet was not concrete, so that there's some fluidity in that phasing plan, but
Yeah, they presented us with a different printout for discussion at the workshop, and I thought the consensus was to go with that, which is what was in front of us tonight, with the 1, 2, and 3 being the center section.
Yes, sir.
My other question is for Mr. Logan and Mr. Leach. With what's submitted, that does meet the guidelines of the agreement with with this development.
So, if I recall correctly, and Kyle will probably remember it better because he and the back end of the development agreement was more with him and Evan. But I think the development agreement's based on the number of homes, not necessarily the number of phases. So, given that this won't have essentially that same number of homes, it'll line up very well with the agreement, but that's, of course, subject to Evan's interpretation, but that would be the way I would read it.
Okay. And then I'm going to steal Alderman Coates' thunder here. These are all buildable lots
Yes, sir.
and sidewalks throughout the community.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Rutledge?
So does the PDR state that what you're showing as phase 1 is what the PDR was phase 1, which was the realignment of Waldron Road, was phase 1, not the center of the property? I'm curious, is that part of, I mean, does that change anything? Is it by what we're supposed to be going by as the PDR, or is it just will we change what we want to?
The PDR, if it did have phasing in it, I've looked at it enough, I should probably know by now, but it doesn't really set the phasing in the PDR doesn't set the phasing. That is what really this preliminary plat does, is set the first set of phasings. They did, I think, show some phasing for construction. One of the original ones was a long time ago, I think, might have had Waldron Road going first, but due to changes in the development agreement, the city's handling all that, so that's not part of their construction phasing.
So no is the answer then?
Yes. It's a long no, but
I understand.
all the
Thank you.
information.
No other comments?
Mr. Holliday?
I have heard some conversation that one of the intents of doing this section is to allow for a potential detour as the realignment of Waldron Road occurs.
Yes, sir.
Such as that may be, it's typical that we get a binder coat and a first layer of asphalt, but we hold back on a second layer and a top coat until construction is complete. If this is going to be used as a diversion for Waldron Road, is it possible, is it appropriate in this setting? I think you understand where I'm heading here. I'd like for that road to be as 100% grade as possible, even though it may, create some patching after construction tears it up a little bit, if it's going to be used as a diversion or detour for Waldron Road. Did I make sense there?
It did. I'm going to ask Mr. Rasmussen, I think he's had a conversation about that I may not have had, so.
The main reason for doing the change is so we can build, just as you spoke of, the road itself. We're amenable to however the city wants to handle it. I would think you'd leave the top coat off. We're trying to get to maintenance as soon as possible and get off the bond, but we're amenable to whatever the city wants. I don't think anybody wants to tear that road up and then come and fix it. So, but I would defer to Kyle or Adam as to what they want, and we'll do whatever it is that is good for all parties.
Typically, in a scenario such as this, we would just keep the road in binder, because binder is easier to repair. And then, we'll maintain that, just maintain a bond on it, and then after, we can come to an agreement with the developer where the city will pay for any patches. After a certain period, the city will make the repairs, then the developer can finish it out and top coat it after that. It's really the fairest way to do it, because we'll be diverting a fairly significant amount of construction traffic through their development. That's the fairest way to do it, not necessarily what we'll end up doing, but that's kind of the norm.
And from a marketing standpoint, we want a final clean road. We don't want to patch the topping. Like Adam said, it just never seals and takes on water and a lot of different reasons.
You would state your name and address. for
I'm
the
sorry,
record.
Terry Rasmussen, 2000 Mallory Lane, Franklin, Tennessee.
Thank you very much, sir. Satisfactory answer, sir?
Yeah, I'm going to yield to staff there. I just kind of wanted to raise the issue because, if we've got Waldron Road level traffic there, I don't want folks dodging manholes that are sticking 2 inches up out of the pavement.
Yeah, typically what we'll do, and we haven't seen construction plans for it, but I'm sure I can ask Matt to make a note to have them finish flush with the binder, then just put a riser ring on them when we go to top. That's not out of the ordinary, so they'll be flush with the binder coat. We'll rise them up after that.
And we're fine with that.
That's super.
That's preferable.
Okay, great.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to question with both the staff and the applicant. So at the workshop, we were presented section 1 and 2, which was dated July the 28th, section 1 and 2. The application on, for our documents here that we're looking at says 1 and 2, but the print we're looking at says 1, 2, and 3. So are we looking for approval of 1 and 2, or 1, 2, and 3?
1, 2, and 3. What was resubmitted of 1, 2, and 3 is what we're seeking approval on.
Is there a?
And
middle
my
one,
understanding
two,
was
three?
that's how it was discussed at workshop.
I just want to make sure that we are, if we do go to approve, that we include in the motion to include the date of the piece of paper we have in front of us, which is August the 18th, and not July the 28th. So staff knows what sheet of music we're working on.
Very good. Would you like to comment on that, Mr.
Application
Logan?
lines up.
I don't have their application in front of me. Do you have it, Alderman Coates?
No, I'm just looking at our notes.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm working on. I just want to make sure that we handle this appropriately for the staff as well as the applicant, that we handle this correctly.
Good. Item 3 needs to be included in the motion if it's going to be included, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? entertain a motion.
So with that, I'll make a motion to accept section 1, 2, and 3 on the engineering drawings dated August the 18th, 21.
We have a motion to accept.
I'd love to accept, or to second that.
Motion to accept by Alderman Coates, second by Mr. Holliday. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
We have a no by Mr. Rutledge, correct? For the record. Ayes by everyone else. And motion passes. With that, we'll move on to the next item. Item number 7, final plat, Celebration Run Subdivision, tax map 17C, Group E, parcel 30.01 and 32, requested by H&H Land Surveying, Inc., 27 proposed lots on 14.58 acres. R1 low-density residential zoning district, property owned by Waldron Enterprises LLC, Mr. Logan.
This is a request for final plat approval at Celebration Run Subdivision. This proposal has 27 lots on 14.58 acres. And Celebration Run is located off of Cherokee Drive. You can see the property there on your screen. And again, this is a close-up view. This subdivision is located right in the middle of town, more or less, off Cherokee Drive, as I mentioned. Just a note, the GIS has yet to update their imagery, so as soon as they do, I know Mr. Schroeder and GIS will get the latest imagery out. So this is, I'm guessing that this one is 12 months, if not 16 months old. Some of you all have driven out there, you know it doesn't look like this. So this is what it was looking like when they did their initial clearing of the land. So this is the zoning map, and this is orange colored, so R1, of course, as many of these projects have been tonight. This is Waldron Road running north to south, so you can see the red color is highway service commercial, and then the dark blue is I-2 industrial. But this is a pretty solid residential area here in the off Cherokee Drive. So there's a picture there of the layout of the subdivision, and not a lot changed from preliminary plat to final. It's only 27 lots, so fairly small. And there has been a question over the last few months about their mail kiosk, and that's been taken care of, and it's situated correctly. And there were no staff comments 2 weeks ago at the workshop, so that will complete the report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there a representative for this project here this evening? Name and address for the record, sir.
Logan Waldron, 125 Suite A, River Rock Boulevard.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I do have one question. Lot 11, is that a buildable lot?
Yes, sir. They all are.
It's all buildable lots?
Yes, sir.
No requirement for any variances? We're good to build on it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Any other questions, Mr. Mayor Kohler?
with regards to the mail kiosk, is there any parking there with that, or is it just they pull up, park on the road, and they go from there?
That, I'm not for sure about that. That's something I don't know, so.
Mr. Leach, is that something that you can weigh in on from discussions with them?
Yeah, I don't believe there was any parking included on this one. If you guys recall, and this is 3 years ago, this is one of the very, very first ones that actually required a mail kiosk. I think it might have been the first one in the city that we required it on. So that's kind of, we've learned as they went, but essentially this one's kind of built now, so trying to shoehorn it in would be inconsiderate of us.
Absolutely. Mayor Kohler, does that answer your question? Do we have any authority to ask in any way for parking at this
The construction plans were approved with the standards that we had at the time, so not really.
No. Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to accept as submitted.
A motion to accept by Mr. Holliday. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Coleman, is that correct? Or Mr. Coates? The masks are throwing me off this evening. Second by Alderman Coates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. On to our next item. Item number 8, final plat Dolly Subdivision, 2 lots on 4.84 acres requested by Doyle Elkins. Property located at 1338 Lake Road, tax map 32, parcel 2.02, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District. Property owned by Timothy Dolly. Mr. Logan.
This is the final plat request for the Dolly Subdivision, and this is a minor plat that's located on about 4.8 acres, and the location is Lake Road, so we're back in the southern part of Laverne, near Rock Springs Elementary School, south on Waldron, and take a right at the stop sign, head west on Lake. This is just down maybe a quarter mile on the right, give or take. May not even be a quarter mile. So here's a close-up of the actual property today. And you can see the driveway meanders through the front part, sort of pasture, and then the house is located to the rear. And the surveyor was not able to submit 10 additional copies after the workshop, so I did bring a copy tonight that has been passed around, thank you. So the new lot is about 35,000 square feet, give or take. So it's about 0.82 acres when all is said and done, but that new lot will be here on the right where I'm pointing. So I anticipate they hope to build a home there. This is the zoning map. Everything is solid R1 on Lake Road. So that's the orange color. Here's some photos of the property. Very long driveway, some rail fences, and you can see the home is back here with the dormers showing here in the photo. And one more photo. These are actually the homes that have been built out in the ridge. So if you're in the driveway, you can look over there, and that's the ridge to the right. So again, that's looking up straight at the house, and then to the right is the ridge. And this is a minor plat, so there was not a lot to it, but didn't have any staff comments at the workshop, so that completes the report. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I should have noted when I was looking at it, but is now the right time for sidewalks on this?
So this is a residential minor plat. They do not require sidewalks typically.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one comment.
Mayor?
This may be right outside of the South Waldron corridor, but it's still keeping with that overall feel forward. So if you think back to our land use plan. So just wanted to bring that up.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the board? Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a
Second.
Motion to accept is submitted by Mayor Cole, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. On to our next item. Item number 9 is deferred. Moving on to item number 10. Site plan, Loving Kindness Child Care Center, existing building, 2,203 square feet, requested by Archuti. Property located at 5428 Murfreesboro Road, tax map 18B, Group E, parcel 2.01, C2 Highway Service Commercial Zoning District. Property owned by Mitchell Whitson Italis. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is a site plan request for a child care center on Murfreesboro Road. And the actual address is 5428 Murfreesboro Road. And This project was here 2 weeks ago and had several technical comments at the workshop that were in the staff report. Just an overview of the project. So the applicant has proposed to change the use of the existing building on the site, one of the two existing buildings. And this use is proposed to occupy 794 square feet of the two-story building. The childcare center would be downstairs, not upstairs. This entire two-story structure is comprised of 2,903 square feet. The applicant has indicated that they plan for an outdoor play area to be located at the rear of the building, between the building and the railroad tracks. And we'll show some photos of that in a second. On the plan, the applicant has shown 10 parking spaces, and it says 10 where 14 are required, and staff has checked their calculations, and those calculations appear to be correct for the downstairs and upstairs uses, but there's more to that, as we'll see in just a minute. So the bottom line is there is a parking issue on the site. Part of that hinges on that the applicant believed when they were drawing the site plan, I guess they had the idea that the city did deferred parking. So I've been researching today about deferred parking, and if you look in our ordinance, you won't find those terms. There is mention of shared parking, and it does say that the planning commission can permit shared parking in the instance that an establishment is next door to a church, a movie theater, another type of theater such as live performances. And it does say in there that those co-located, if you will, establishments, it's of utmost importance that the churches and the theaters have their busy times on Sundays and/or Friday and Saturday nights. And that's the reason that shared parking is permitted. By the way, that's not unusual. I was in Mount Juliet for a long time. They had the same thing in their ordinance, that if it's beside a church, if it's beside a movie theater or live performances, you can borrow, so to speak, parking, but you have to be adjacent. So as staff, I don't find that there's a church or a theater within, I don't know the closest church, but it's not adjacent. It doesn't touch. They have to touch. So that's sort of shared parking and deferred parking. You might say they're similar, but again, the other establishments needed, like the church, it's not there. One of the notes from the workshop 2 weeks ago is the exact uses upstairs at that time were not shown on the plan. And then, of course, at the workshop, the applicant did tell us that the upstairs is residential. So staff has worked with that, and it appears that the residential's been there for many, many years. And if that is the case, it would be grandfathered. And that sounds good for the childcare center. The problem with that is if you're just grandfathering part of a multi-tenant building, that doesn't relieve everything else that's going on that site with the building, just because a third of it is grandfathered or 25% is grandfathered. So that's an issue for everyone involved. I'll elaborate more on the parking and the upstairs use in just a few minutes. But another important item is this building is located on Murfreesboro Road. It's in an overlay district. They did show a mural, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, and in your packets tonight, the applicant did give a lot of detailed answers to each of those items that was in that staff report. So I've provided those for you tonight. I also emailed them to you today at noon, so you could have them digitally. And those are the responses from the applicant. I believe it's the architect. So he has provided answers, but it's also mentioned in there that the change of use requirements that the city has far exceed what the tenants are expecting or hoping to spend. So there's an issue there, but that was sent, and he did send that. they didn't send an updated plan or site plan, and I have to assume that that's because if you go through there and read those responses, it appears that many of them, they're either unwilling or unable to meet. So if they can't meet the technical responses, I can assume that they didn't think it was worthwhile to print out a whole nother set of plans and submit. So I did bring, and I set it up there in front of Mr. Garvin. That's from the workshop. That's the plan that was submitted. So I only have 2 left from the workshop. So I brought one, and I have one from my file. So please take a look at it. But, you know, in terms of big changes since 2 weeks ago, I don't know that the architect has shown any big changes. So unless they indicate that tonight. So that kind of is an overview of the project. So let's move to the slides. So this is the location here at 5428 Murfreesboro Road. This is to, if you don't know, so right beside here is the liquor store. And then to the right of this establishment is another building. And behind it is the railroad tracks. And then, of course, on the other side of the road tracks is a larger residential area. So it is right on Murfreesboro Road, and as part of the requirements of the site plan, since it's a commercial site plan, part of those requirements involve installing a sidewalk on Murfreesboro Road. So that is one of the technical comments as well. This is the zoning map. So it's solid red on this side of Murfreesboro Road and most of the other side. And that's, the red color is highway service commercial, so that's C2. Here's some photos of the building and the site. And this is the front of the building. In the distance there, you can see the existing liquor store. And then this is sort of, I lightened that photo to show there is some outdoor seating in the front there, it appears, of the market. So you can see there's striped spaces currently in the front, and there's 5 of those. And then there's 5 spaces down the side on the plan, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So I mentioned the upper story residential. So this is, you'll see on that plan, and in my slide, there's an address. I guess it's 5428A and B. So apparently those are residential units on top, and it appears that they are entering and exiting from this side of the building, which is opposite side of the child care center. And of course, there's the food truck. Again, another view of it. So this is the side where the entrance would be to the child care center. And again, striped spaces, and there's 5 here as well. So that appears that there's 10 spaces plus a drop-off zone, designated drop-off space. So that's on the plan and has been for a couple weeks. Again, railroad tracks, here's the existing dumpster and dumpster pad. So this is the door and the 2 windows downstairs that the child care center would utilize. And you can see how the building's painted there and the striped spaces. And then this is moving toward the rear. You can see a chain link fence has been installed, which would be the outdoor play area for the children. Closer look at the fenced area and the railroad track, where they're proposing the play area. So this is the plan, and this is taken from the same plan that you have there tonight. So this shows the building, and zooming in, they're indicating 5 parking spaces next to Murfreesboro Road, and then 5 down this north or northwest side of the building, plus the drop-off space. So from this calculation, and let me move, because I said that these calculations appear correct. So for the first floor, they're listing this as a restaurant and daycare. So required spaces for the restaurant is 5, required spaces for the daycare is 4. So on your first floor, you need 9. Now, the second floor, again, this is of 2 weeks ago before they indicated that it was residential. It just had business upstairs. Well, we now know that it's not a business, it's residential. So that then gets back to the parking requirements, because no one can calculate exactly how much parking is needed unless you know exactly what's going on in the building. Well, our ordinance clearly says that every dwelling unit must have 3 spaces. It doesn't matter if it's multifamily, single family, and I looked that up about 4 o'clock this afternoon because I want to be fresh for this meeting. So 3 spaces are required for every residential unit. Well, I can only assume from A and B, I can't go in the building, I assume A and B that there's 2 upstairs. Well, 2 times 3 would be 6. And the architect was already looking at this, it appears, a couple weeks back, and in one of the emails it says, you know, that seems, I don't know the verb or the adjective he used, but it was kind of stringent, it was kind of strict to have 6 spaces. And so I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, yeah, that begs the question, if the upstairs is grandfathered, how many spaces are needed? I don't know that I have that answer. I don't know when the building was built. It's hard to find any community in Middle Tennessee that requires less than 2 spaces per, 2 is really not enough. We all know that. But 3 is what our ordinance requires if this were a new building that they were building today. But let's go ahead and grandfather the top and say that 2 spaces are needed per unit. Well, then now you need 4 on the second floor. But again, if it's grandfathered, I'm not sure staff can, if it's grandfathered, does it go back to the parking requirements from 1972 or 1982? I don't know. I just know 3, I would agree with the architect, 3 is too much per space. So get rid of the 6 and think 4. But then, you try to get the math to work, you still have 4 on the top needed for the 2 residences, and then those numbers are correct from the architect, so now you're at 9 plus 4 is 13. Well, there's 10 shown on the plan plus the drop-off space. So let's go ahead for the benefit of the doubt and say the drop-off space becomes a regular space. So now you're at 11, but you still need 13. And so it's hard to even get around the parking issue and try to make a solution there. And not to mention all the other many technical comments. I was just looking at parking and seeing if there was any way to get the numbers to work for that. So again, this plan from 2 weeks ago shows deferred parking, which is, I know Mr. Leach and I have looked at that, and that not only do we not recognize it, but if those were parking spaces, they're going to block the cross access to the neighboring lot, which just creates different problems. So it's tough. This is the elevation taken from the plan, and that just shows the mural that was proposed a couple weeks ago. And now the mural has been, according to the emails from the architect, the mural has been taken off of the plans. So they're not planning to do that. And I believe that covers most everything. I don't know if Mr. Leach has anything to add, but thank you.
Thank you, sir. So how many technical items are there, Mr. Logan?
Let's see here. It looks like there's around 15 to 17.
Okay. Is there a representative for this project here this evening? Come to the podium and please state your name and address.
Micah Paget, 6 South 14th Street, Nashville, Tennessee, 37206.
Very good. Thank you, sir. So I'll start off. There is a number of technical items on this project that
Correct.
need to be addressed. And
Understood.
obviously, they're not going to be addressed this evening.
Yes, I understand that.
Are you kind of on the same page with staff in regards to what needs to be done? So,
Yeah, I understand the requirements. We have gotten a little bit of additional information, and you'll see on our site plan, there's a blank space, and then there's some more buildings on the other side. There is parking there that we have not shown on this plan. We didn't think it was germane to our project. However, if we analyze the whole site, and that's part of the reason why we have not resubmitted drawings yet, we intend to, this may solve the problem just by making that calculation. However, we've also learned that the 2 apartments have been vacant for a year at least. And I know in other jurisdictions, if that remains vacant, then that could jeopardize the grandfather status. Would that be true for this city?
I would point with legal and staff to get a definitive answer. I believe you're correct, but I would definitely
And
get
in
with
that
legal.
case, it's vacant, it's unoccupied. Do we need parking spaces for vacant space?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You will.
Can we
So-
change the use? Because, I don't know, just an idea. So
Yes, sir.
even though it's vacant and no longer grandfathered, we got to provide parking.
Yes, sir. So here's the best recommendation out the gate, so to say, that I can make at this point. I would recommend a deferral, working with staff to correct these items, as many as possible,
Sure.
and presenting it back to us so that we can go over it. As of right now, we don't even have what
Right.
you're planning, so to say, 100%. We've got about
Sure.
85%.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So,
Exactly.
you know, obviously, we wouldn't be able to give it a favorable situation as of right now. So my best recommendation would be to make a request a deferral and continue working on this.
Absolutely. Can I ask one small question?
Yes, sir.
There, comment number 17 is about cross-site access.
Mhm.
May we please block the access to the liquor store from the daycare?
So that is between you and them, and we will look at it as it's presented on the site plan. So
Okay.
I cannot give you permission, nor take away permission, nor
So-
give. But I can say
Okay.
that is something that you'll have to include in the site plan that we can look at.
Okay, and should we get a letter from the liquor store, or is that necessary?
If my understanding is correct, if it is not, that's for the dual parking, I'm assuming, correct?
Right, what we had labeled as deferred parking, I think we can just make that happen with some striping and a little bit of,
Okay. If I understand Mr. Logan correctly, if it had been a church or live performance theater or something of that nature, absolutely you could. My understanding
no,
from
but
what
I'm
Mr.
saying they
Logan
will
said-
be no longer deferred, they're gonna happen now.
Excuse me?
I'm saying we're gonna make it happen now if we can block off that cross-site access. It's not deferred, it's real parking right now, that's what I'm saying.
That would be presented to us in site plan.
Understood.
We would look at it at workshop.
So how do we prove we have the permission of the other property owner?
That is I will point you once again towards staff.
Okay, wonderful, thank
On
you.
that. So would you like to make a deferral on this
Yes,
item?
please.
Okay, and Mr. Cole has a comment?
Yes, I have a question, and I'd like for our city attorney to hop in on this as far as the state guidelines for safety with state inspections and how it pertains to the city and basically how they have their set of guidelines, but we can be more stringent. Can you speak on that?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to do that. So obviously, as everyone knows, the state is a separate jurisdiction from the city, and to the extent that an applicant may meet certain state specifications, that does not mean necessarily that they meet city specifications. The city can have more stringent specifications and/or different. So they're two different jurisdictions, and we wouldn't have any control over what the state requires, but we are certainly within our right to have our own requirements with which the applicant would have to comply.
Thank you. I know that was some of the dialogue that came up with some of the emails back and forth. So I would say look over all of the technical issues because it's requirements for the most part.
Sure.
Yeah. we
Mr.
made-
Chairman, I have a comment, and this is for staff as well.
Please, Mr. Rutledge.
I remember at one point, and I don't know how long ago this was, probably when we first started getting liquor stores in Laverne, that there was a distance requirement between churches and daycares for those. So is that still in place?
I believe
I can
Mr.
comment on
Cook
that.
addressed that already.
That, we mentioned that at workshop. It was, there's a distance requirement if a liquor store is coming into an area, it has to be, but if it's a daycare or church coming into Where a liquor store already is, then that distance requirement does not apply. If the liquor store's already there.
That makes no sense. We need to change that.
That's why we're working on the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So remember,
No
write
other
that down.
comments for me.
Mr. Coates, have you got anything you want to?
Yeah, I'd just like to, for the applicant, you need to really look at, on the technical comments, items 1, 3, 5, and 10. You can't, historically, let me go through, number 1, number 3, number 5, and number 10. Historically, this board votes against the applicant
Right.
if they don't satisfy staff's comments. Obviously, they're here from a technical standpoint to adhere, giving it to us. So when we have technical issues on here, historically, it doesn't go
Right.
well for the applicant, as you can understand.
Yes,
So I think you need to really sit down with staff and try and get these hashed out. If they don't,
right.
and history just will tell you, as I'm sure you well know, it's going to be an
Yeah,
issue for you.
this was really intended to be a expressing of our opinion prior to the deadline so that we could work things out, but we ran out of time, so that didn't happen. So this was not really intended to be shown to you all, but, you know, whatever. It is what it is.
Well, that's why we had the workshop, and we look forward
Yeah.
to you coming back to the workshop and we'll try and work through it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Not yet, sir. Any other questions or comments before I accept his deferral? Mr. Holliday?
This is in Murfreesboro Road Overlay District, and is it subject to only the percentage of the building that is being repurposed, or is it the entire building?
It is now, so if you go back about 4 years ago, you had to increase the size of the building by 50% or more for the architectural requirements to apply. But that was changed at least 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, 3, to include any change of use in an overlay district, including Murfreesboro Road. So any change of use, it doesn't have to be 50% or more of the building.
So that's
So-
the whole building.
So is 5428C subject to improvement under the Murfreesboro Road Overlay District? Because 5428, which I'm going to call D, this childcare facility, is making this application?
My interpretation as staff is, yes, you're correct.
I would agree, and I would anticipate that when we look at this again in workshop, we're looking at the entire building for improvement and compliance with Murfreesboro Overlay District.
Makes sense? Mr. Rutledge, did you have one more comment, sir? Well,
I think I'm being told that my client does not own the building, they're the tenant. I think you may have already been aware of that. Okay,
I think we may need to see the building owner in that workshop.
yeah.
all right.
Okay,
So
we
I've
will make
accept-
that request.
Okay, I've accepted your deferral,
Thank you.
and workshop is second Tuesday of the month.
Do we need to vote on the deferral?
We requested a deferral. We requested deferral, we vote, correct?
Yes,
client-
I think just as a best practices, my preference would be that you vote on the deferral to make sure that.
Okay, so
Since it didn't happen before the meeting was my thought.
okay, very good. So I will make a motion to accept the applicant's deferral.
I think
We have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mayor Cole. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. We will
Okay.
see you at workshop next month, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So item number 11 has deferred. Is that correct, Mr. Logan?
Yes, that's correct.
And we will move on to item number 12, bonds and letters of credit.
So the only changes from last month were the acceptance of the bond for Celebration Ridge. It's on there, Celebration Run, I think is what the name is now. And renewal of the bond for Central Central Park Commercial, which is there in front of what would be the Carpenters Union Hall. But everything else is what is.
And that list appears to be getting shorter.
It has not grown in quite some time.
It has. Thank you very much, Mr. Leach. Thank you, Mr. Logan, for everything. Meeting adjourned.